right, here we go. Here we go.
Let's rock and roll, folks. It's August 9th, the year 2022. Welcome on board, everybody. You're listening to the Crushing Iron podcast, and this is currently episode 606.
There it is, 606. There it is.
We come to you right out of the gate with breaking news from Beloit, Wisconsin. Mike Robbie, what do you have for us today?
Well, I just posted it in the Facebook group, but I will be joining thousands of other people at Ironman Wisconsin this year. It's a done deal. I actually posted my registration just to prove it.
Ooh, that's the official kind.
Yeah, I just had to get that off my worry meter, because obviously I thought I signed up for Chattanooga 70.3 and I didn't. So
just about to ask you that.
It's in there now. It's in print.
It's in print. If it's on social media, then you know it must be true. So we know Mike is racing, and that actually will be the launch pad for the discussion we have today. But before we get into that, if it's your first time tuning in, welcome. We appreciate you giving us your time. We know you have a lot of options in the triathlon podcast universe and just podcasts in general. Your time is very valuable, so we appreciate you tuning in today. We cover it all. We will do swim, bike, and run specific podcasts. We'll do race recaps and also some race previews. But for the most part, Mike and I, as coaches, athletes, best friends, we just sit back, relax, have an open, honest discussion about what we're going through as individuals ourselves, but also as coaches and athletes. We'll also talk frequently about what our own athletes are going through. We both work with a wide range of athletes all across the globe, from beginner level triathletes trying to do their first 5K or sprint triathlon, all the way up through elite level amateurs heading back to Kona, and everyone in between. And we'll use the feedback loop we have with them and training peaks, emails, text messages, and the like to drive the discussion of the day. We also utilize our Facebook group, which the aforementioned Facebook group where Mike just posted his press release about doing Ironman Wisconsin. Great community. You can search that again on Facebook, Crushing Iron Group. Answer one simple question and let you right in. Great community, awesome people. It's a motivating bunch. You're not going to get a lot of rah, here's my 200-mile bike ride and 40-mile brick, please like this post so I can feel like I didn't just destroy my season action. But you get a lot of support. And you get a lot of thoughtfulness, I think, from people who have been there and are doing things and don't want you to do them and have the same mistake. And it's just a great group. It's an uplifting group, and I think a challenging group in terms of challenging the way you think about things and either applying some affirmation or some critical thinking. So be a part of that group. Great community. We'll do Q&As in there sometimes, but that's it. We don't do sponsors. And we definitely don't do ads, but we do have an agenda, and it's a very important one, and that's to do our best to keep you happy and healthy in your endurance sports journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a supportive group we have there, and I've been kind of looking in there a little bit lately, and I always do, but I peek in there. But, man, I got to the point where I was like, why the hell not? I'm feeling pretty good. I'm back home. I've been training consistently for a while now, and I've been kind of on and off training all year, so I've been kind of in the ballpark, and then turned it up a notch and feel good about it. And I'm going in with really no expectations, which is kind of the first time I've done that. I mean, I have some, of course. It's hard to kind of wipe that from your slate altogether, but man, I'm not getting any younger. I can do it. Like, that's a big deal. When you can do shit like this and you can, or, you never know, but I'm just not going to sit around and just kind of watch life go by. That's kind of what finally turned the corner for me. So, you know what I'm saying, man? It's like, let's do shit. I mean, take a risk every now and then.
Dude, I get it. Yeah, I thought, I'm just not kind of scrolling through and catching up on what you read. Or excuse me, what you wrote. As always, very good with your words, and you kind of wrote a thing called "Someday." I won't spoil it for people who want to go in there and read it, but I thought it was interesting, kind of reading back and looking back to, because when we talk about it, we talk about this a lot, in terms of athletes. They get into, they get into triathlon for this reason that's not about setting PRs or only going out and having, best performances or qualifying for Kona and being on a podium or, always being their pastime. They get in it to because they need to, right? Because they have this void in their life that they need to fill, right? Because they're not doing anything else with it, right? They're sitting on their couch or they're filling their time with things that they feel like overwhelm them to the point where they don't have time for anything else, whether it's work or play or kid stuff, whatever it is. And they finally figure out, hey, I need to do something for me, right? Because I want to be around for a while. I know that was the kind of the genesis for you getting into the sport. The same thing for me. I got into the sport 20 years ago because my life wasn't in the greatest spot and I was way overweight and I was like, I need to just get back in shape, and then the farther we get into the sport, the further away we get from that mentality of like, man, I need to do this now. It's like, I can do it later, or I'm not in the best shape, so I don't want to go out and really affect my athlete's resume of race stuff, and people are gonna think, and I don't want to race on the PR. And then you turn into this person who just never races unless it's the perfect lead up. And then one day you're gonna figure out that you're done racing and you didn't even know it because you can't. And I thought that was great how you wrote it up, and you showed the picture of your dad and the impact seeing that picture your mom pulled out, I guess, this past weekend, had on you. And I think we lose sight so quickly of the urgency and the purity in which we started, right? Because then we add so many things and so many expectations, and then you end up backing away and kind of just backing away from why you did it and not letting all these other things affect your not your why, but your why not, right? Or why not right now? Because like you said in kind of like your poem, I guess, is like, someday I won't be able to. And we now live in this world of, I got to wait till it's perfect. Yeah, the market might shift. Housing prices are too high. I think I'm going to wait it out, or I'm going to wait for something better to pop up. And then it never happens. And you're sitting there stuck, living in a life that you didn't act upon, that you weren't proactive with. You didn't take your shot, right? You didn't go for it. You just sat there waiting for the perfect moment and the perfect time and the perfect buildup with the perfect training to do the perfect race. That never happened because you missed it. And it sounds to me like you are refusing to have that mentality and you don't want to miss any more opportunities.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly it, really. I mean, obviously patience is great in life too. I know it's not like, go out and make hasty decisions. And obviously I've been beating around the bush a little bit for a few weeks, but there was reason behind that. And I just wanted to make sure I wasn't doing something totally stupid, and there's been a few experiences I've had over the last month or so that have, of course I've been there many times. I know what it takes, and I've been looking for these clues and things like that are like, all right, well, you're right where you need to be, sort of, at least, and now you've got another 5 weeks probably 3 weeks of pretty good hard training to get, really dial it in a little bit more, and then just recover and see what happens, and I've had races where, like you're saying, I've been what I thought was a perfect lead up, and I've had races where I really didn't know if I had anything. And, a lot of times they're very close. They're very similar. And for me, I wanted to see what my body could handle a little bit on some bigger stuff. But then now again, and like, me, I'm just such a mental person on this stuff. I really look for ways to kind of drag myself out of little pain situations or different things like that. And I look for these ideas of, like, hey, you just ran 10 miles. And do you really think you got the mental fortitude to go? Cause your body, like the other day I was running and I was like, I'm starting to get mentally fatigued here, but my body's not quitting yet, And so now I'm trying to just build that connection with the mind and body because the body is ready to go. That's kind of what I got to. And I just, I don't understand. I mean, this is what we do, of course, and there are so many opportunities out there in life, and that little poem thing I wrote, I was just thinking about, my God, how many, we just put shit off and never do it. And it's like, I just don't, it's like that shirt we made last time. It's called Do It Now. I've been kind of wearing that every once in a while. And it's like, why not, man? Just do it and see what happens. And I've had athletes over the last couple months doing that, probably like we talk about sometimes how maybe they're not the most prepared for a race, but they did it and they got through it. And it feels good, and that's the other thing is that while I've been doing this and while I've been training, I think it gets lost on us how much better and it can make us feel if we're doing it the right way and we're not doing completely stupid shit all the time. And, because you go through life and if you don't pay close attention, you might not realize how many good things it's doing for you, and I've just, I've been finding that, I've been feeling more energized just in general and getting a lot more things done with coaching and all these kinds of things. So it's just, I think it's just a overall positive when you can kind of put yourself out there a little bit and have a little bit of a juice pushing you along a little bit. And especially if you're doing it in a way that feels good. And that's where I'm at, so I'm excited about it, really.
It's you bring up so many good points that I think, again, like we lose. I think the further an athlete gets into their journey, the harder it is for them to remember what it was like to start, right? And how easy the wins came and how proud of themselves they were. Because then once you get fully into it, well, then it's time to, critique things and be hard on yourself. And I always need to have this. And then that thought process is what kind of tends to lean you towards, I don't know if I should, or man, I don't think I'm going to be, because one of the biggest things athletes struggle with is, am I fully ready or am I ready enough? Right. And what could I get by doing it versus not doing it? And there's a whole lot that goes into that. I mean, you and I coach a lot of athletes, and, every year you have athletes that, overcommit and then really, because listen, let's be totally honest. A lot of athletes sign up for a race that they never should have signed up for. Right. That's just a fact. And because they do it a year in advance when life is different, demands are different, their heart's in it, and then things happen and then their heart moves away from it and time is not available and their heart. And so they just kind of do it and keep doing it. No one wants that. Coaches don't want it. We don't want it. Do what makes you happy. Right. But also think to the other extent, triathletes really struggle with that giant swing in the pendulum, right? It's either all the way in or all the way out, right? Because it has to be perfect. We have to have the perfect lead up for a race. And if we don't, then we most certainly have to have 20 paragraphs on Facebook highlighting, why our perfect lead up wasn't perfect. And it might not be our big day and our big race. What we oftentimes forget is, first off, really nobody cares, right? They know what we do.
Exactly.
They think we'd run like a duathlon, then we swim a little bit and maybe get out. And then like, oh, did you do Hawaii? Like, no, I didn't do Hawaii. Oh, well, then what are you doing then? No one knows, right? But we're always battling this internal, let's have this internal debate of what's good enough and is it worth my time? Not just my time, but my effort. Is it worth my time and effort? And I think athletes, again, distance themselves from the value in completing a task and finishing, right? And again, not every athlete needs to go down the route. If you're feeling burnt out, or you feel like you overcommitted it and it's making you I had 2 conversations this last week. It was like, hey dude, the last few years, kids sports haven't been anything. Now I got 2 kids having 2 sports. I got no time. Like I got lots of responsibilities I didn't have, when I signed up for this race. It's causing me too much stress. So because usually when you have like that guilt scenario where you feel guilty for doing a workout and then you feel guilty for not doing it, then things are way off kilter. Things need to change. Doesn't mean you quit altogether, because like you said before we went on air, the fuck else are you gonna do? Right? You're gonna sit around.
Yeah.
Right? You're gonna eat a bag of chips. You're gonna what is it? What are you gonna fill your void with? Because I do feel like a lot of athletes come into this sport with some kind of, and the sport can be very addicting, right? Like, I'm not saying everyone who does triathlon is an addict, but every single person listening has addictive tendencies, or in obsessions. Like, everyone listening to this podcast, I would probably argue is addicted to their phones, whether you want to admit it or not, you probably are. speaking of like, phones, I read a statistic the other day that the average person is going to spend 5 years looking at their phone.
Unbelievable.
5 years. 5 years looking at their phone, and less than 2 years total having meaningful conversations with people in person.
Wow.
Which it's a whole another topic for a different day. But anyway, so we all have addictive personalities, which is obvious. And I think we replace one thing for another. And again, like you said before the podcast started, it's like, what else are you going to do? And because it doesn't have to be perfect, right? You don't have to have the perfect lead up, because the things you get from going through training and going to the finish line and sharing that day and the community and the people, it's what keeps us going. And because most people, again, if you're listening, you have a choice to participate. You have a choice to race. I think we lose sight very frequently of the fact that we have a choice, and that one day we won't have a choice anymore. You won't be able to run. You won't be able to ride. You won't be able to swim. Things will look different, and you won't be able to do sports. Then what are you going to do? Right? We're given a specific amount of time, and the thing is, it's like we don't know how long that time is going to be. Right? We don't know how long of a time. It could be a year, it could be 2, it could be 3, it could be 4. And a lot of people think we'd say the last 2 or 3 years, like, I didn't know it would be 2 years for me to race. Like, the time is now. Like, what? And like you said, what else are you going to do? You don't have, and again, you don't have to go all the way in, which is a huge struggle, a giant struggle. And in fact, a huge problem, I think, with triathlon in general is that people go in and they immediately jump to Ironman. So they have this huge swing of what's real and what has to be done to be a triathlon, to be a triathlete. And it has to be all these hours of training and all these century rides and all these marathons and all this training and so much time and commitment, and it's got to beat you down, and they do this really, really long event. If they can't do that, they just stop and they could do nothing. Right? That's why I think like the progression is so out of whack, and it's actually hurting the sport, because people just jump right into Ironman instead of doing sprints and triathlons and 70.3s and fulls. I think we even did like a little poll on our Instagram, like what's the most popular distance? It was like 70.3, 70.3, because once you train for a full, a 70.3 feels like you're like not even training anymore because of the time commitment. Mm-hmm. Find something that fits in your life and then do it, and then seize the moment and stop waiting for a reason. And I think everyone has their reasons for kind of hedging their bet. I mean, you've done it with, this full, like, I'm not sure if I'm ready or not. But I think ultimately it rarely comes down to the physical part of it, especially if you've done a ton of them, right? Mm-hmm. Like you've done a ton. It might not be just physical, but it's oftentimes like a combination of, am I in the right space mentally and emotionally, and am I in a good enough space physically to make it happen? Because I do think you have to complement both to be able to kind of go in and be able to take on an event that is as demanding as a full Ironman.
Yeah, for sure, man. As you were talking about that, it just reminded me of something. It was like, when you said, what are you going to do? And this, it kind of goes along with that picture my mom posted with me and my dad. And it had such a big impact on me at the time, because shortly thereafter, maybe 4 or 5 years later, he retired from work. He had a, pretty good situation going at work, and then he retired. And I said, what are you going to do now? Because I knew he golfed a little bit, but I was just like, what are you going to do? And he's like, nothing, I'm going to relax. And I just said, what? You're just going to relax? He goes, yeah. And that's what he did for like the last 2 years of his life. I mean, it just went downhill quick, and he laid on the couch a lot and just watched TV and shit. And I was like, man, got to get up and move, man. Well, I don't have the energy. And I was like, all right, well, that's part of it. So that really, that's the thing. It's like, I hate to say it, but it's sort of a microcosm, or it's a microcosm in a way of a lot of people that I know that still do sort of stuff, but they're leaning the other way. Ever since I moved up here, I've been sitting on lakes and nice decks and just chilling, and it's so luring, you know what I mean? Just to kind of hang out, and, and I love it. And I could just see how dangerous that could be, I I mean, I got to hand it to my mom because she has this massive flower hill, and she's always out there doing stuff and moving around mulch, and, you know, she's real active, you know. And, but what comes back to me is sort of like, you got to kind of step into the fire, you know, and I've always kind of used fear as my compass. And what scares me is kind of falling into that trap. And that's what got me into the sport. I was getting real lazy, and I was like, man, I'm not getting any younger. And if I don't get going now, I may never get going. And it's never going to get easier. I'll tell you that. So that's kind of what flipped my switch to initially do Ironman. And now as I continue to sort of use fear as my compass, I mean, I've always done that, you know, with work and different things I get into. You know, when I started drumming, I was scared shitless of that, but it was like, there's so many things out there that we're so afraid to do, but we want to do them, you know. It's always been I mean, that was my thing since I was a kid. I wanted to be a drummer. So in my 30s, I started playing drums, and, you know, that doesn't really go well. You have to have, I think, it went okay, but I did it, you know, and I recorded a few albums and stuff like that, and they kind of suck, but man, I feel so great about that. I found the old tape of my band and the finale show the other day. I was kind of laughing about it, but when you have things in your head that you know, someday I'll do this, but man, you know, it's kind of cliche, but someday is today. You know, it's like, what are we waiting for? And for me to join or to sign up for Ironman was kind of out, you know, that's why I really started training hard. I go up to the lake and I found these mountain bike trails, and I was running on these, you know, crazy old logging cross country trails, and it's not easy, but man, every single time, that's how I do it. I'll be laying around going, I don't know. And then I'll just like that fear of falling into that lazy trap is what gets me out of bed or off the couch or whatever it is. And it happened Sunday. I rode hard trainer ride on Saturday, and it was pouring rain all day Sunday. I was back here at home, and I was just laying around all day, and it was like 5:00, and I had a long run still. And I'm like, am I going to do this? I went out and did it, and I didn't feel like doing it at all. And by the end, or about midway through, I was like, man, I feel excellent right now. And I'm so glad. I mean, how many times have you said that? I'm so glad I finally did this. And to me, that's the thing, right? Is like, I'm so afraid of not taking advantage. And people are like, what is going to be your biggest regret? Is like not doing shit I wanted to do. You know, that's to me is my biggest fear. So yeah, I'm always like, even if I don't want to, I just sort of pour myself into stuff like that and kind of force myself to get up on stage and play drums when it's the scariest thing and you know, I can think of in front of people that are really good musicians or whatever. And I always talked about how, you know, playing baseball, I was afraid every time I went on the field, but it was something I knew I had to do. You know, it's like, go into your fear, use that fear as your compass, because usually that's the thing you need to do.
You know, the more kind of explaining your thought process and stuff, I can't help but think that we get, you know, you use the examples of, you know, you talked about your dad and the choices we make. And we oftentimes talk about, you know, most people say triathlon's affected my life in a positive way. You know, it's made me more committed, more motivated, more accountable. You know, I get more healthy. You know, I'm able to do things I've never done before. I'm getting promotions at work, or I've got more confidence. That's one of the main drivers, I think, that we just forget about, right?
Yep.
Is that small decisions have like a cascading, you know, momentous effect that like help you make other decisions, help you take bigger leaps, help you be courageous, help you do this. You know, like people thought we were nuts for moving, you know, and doing things. And it's like I was just as you were talking, I was like, man, thinking about the very first Ironman I ever did in 70.3. It was like 2008 or 9. And I remember thinking how different the world was back then in terms of that no one really knew, right? Like, I think social media existed, but there wasn't Instagram I was like, I wasn't even on Facebook. And it was like, no one really knew what you did. You just like did stuff because you wanted to, because you were going to get something good about it. And I do think there is this societal pressure that we again, willfully participate in, right? I think even it was 2 years ago, we talked about everyone should sign up for a race and not tell anyone they're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
and then see what happens. And I think that our inability to kind of, I don't want to say selfish, but just kind of like reside within ourselves of our true belief system and why we're racing and what we want to get out of it. People just talk too much, and I don't want to say people share too much, but I think they do. I think we willfully put too much pressure on ourselves by announcing every feeling or thought, good or bad, or intention that we feel like. Then to counteract that, we have to continue to update the entire universe on what we're doing instead of just like that puts unwarranted pressure on you to make decisions about specific things in your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you sign up for a race last year. It's Ironman Wisconsin. That's the race we're talking about because you're doing it, and your training's going really well, but you don't tell anybody. And again, you sign up for the race, you didn't tell anyone. Your training's going awesome, no one knows. Then you get injured, no one knows. And then you end up getting the start line. The day before the race, you're like, man, I'm not fully trained, but you know what? I'm the only one that knows that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to go out here and give it my best and do something that most people, 99% of the world wishes they could do, but they can't because they're too out of shape, they're too lazy, they're too uncommitted. But I know I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is most people, it's the opposite. We have to update the universe on everything that we're doing and going through. And then I feel like it puts undue pressure and people end up skipping out on things that could be life-changing in their life because they're too worried about the social media effect and what may or may not happen instead of being like, man, like what? So for me, I'm doing the 70.3 at Madison, and I haven't him and hawed about it as much as maybe you have because you're doing a full and I'm doing a 70.3. But I have kind of gone back and forth. Do you have time to do it? And what's actually gotten me to the point to where I've been really excited about doing it and kind of just like counting down the days, hasn't been because I've got this sky high level of fitness. I remember, and I've been watching, I sent you a video a couple of days ago of, I was on the watt bike and I was doing a workout and I looked up some of your old crushing iron videos, I guess our crushing iron videos, but the ones that you've done specifically, if you're on the trainer and you're bored and you're tired of watching stupid documentaries on Netflix or, listening to things on, like us, maybe on podcasts, look up crushing iron, race tribute videos, because they're some of the best out there. I was watching the one in Louisville that you and I did together, like 4 or 5, August was like 4 or 5 months after I got out of treatment. I was just newly sober. We both, there a lot of stuff was going on. I was watching it and just getting like real hyped up. And remembering that morning where we walked down, because there was a shot. I still get like kind of choked up when I watch that video for a lot of reasons. One's the song, and then I didn't know him obviously near as well, but you have this huge shot of Pete in there, and it just makes you think about a lot of stuff, honestly. And that video means a lot to me for a lot of different reasons. But and I was watching it with Hayden, which is really kind of cool because he wasn't alive at that point and hadn't been born. But I remember that morning so vividly. And we walked down there as 2014 Louisville.
Yep.
And it's blazing hot, no wetsuit. The old school in Ironman Louisville, you would line up on the greenway next to the river in this like 2-mile long parade, and we kind of made the decision the day before. It's no wetsuits. Let's just start at the back. Like, well, what's the point? So we took our time. I lived kind of the micro Torali pre-race morning ritual, which is like wake up late, meander your way down. I remember we had this like kind of real chill stroll down to transition, which is the opposite of most, right? Because I was already filled with so much gratitude that I was even able to even be at the start line after, again, I was just a few months sober. I'd been going through a lot, and I was like, man, I remember thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm here. Like, I can't believe I'm here. That I think I can do this. I'm able to do this. Like, it was mind blowing to me, not in like a cocky, confident way, but just like an overwhelming amount of appreciation. And then we let everybody kind of pass off, and then we remember we sat on the little concrete amphitheater they had down there at the race start, and if you've ever been to Louisville or to know, but it's like this huge like concrete amphitheater, like, stadium kind of seating, looking out over the start where the pier is. I remember just sitting there, you and I were sitting there, and they started playing the national anthem, and I didn't like boohoo, but like I was like, tears were just streaming, because I remember thinking like, we're about to start. Like this is really about to happen. Like I'm here. I had no goals for the day, nothing, but I was so happy to be there. You and I were doing it together, and there's this really great shot of that. I think your brother captured. Maybe it was Corey that captured. I think it was Chris.
Chris got it. Yeah.
You and I, giving it a high five right before he got in the water. And then I remember vividly getting in the water and taking like 2 or 3 strokes and just like, I mean, the last thing you want to do is open your mouth in the Ohio, but I did, and I smiled, and I was like, and I just remember how happy I was during that swim, and during that whole race, how grateful I was, and how much the experience meant to me, and how, looking back on it, how I also had more reasons than I can ever even count to not do it, and to not make it to the start line.
Yeah.
And to not even show up. But it's something I'll never forget. And I can't imagine now having missed that. And I think, again, like, you don't have to go into every race with this enormous amount of gratitude and appreciation of everything. I think that's actually asking a lot. I think everyone should have some, but I do think having that mentality, like, man, I can't believe I'm here and I'm able to do this and I'm about to. And like the freedom that it gives you to not be so attached. And I ended up having actually a really, really good race that day for it being so insanely hot. But I just remember everything, I felt no stress, right? Because like, we think about the world we live in and how just you wake up and there's already like a baseline level of stress or just a feeling that's on. It's like, man, just like, it's kind of like where people go to like their happy place. And if you're robbing yourself of that opportunity because everything hasn't been perfect or something isn't the best you want it to be, instead of thinking about, what you're not risking, think about what you are risking by not doing it and what you are going to miss out on and the change that it can have in you. Because those are the memories that you're going to take, long after you're long and done with triathlon, when you're sitting on your front porch rocker, dreaming of your old triathlon hobby days, telling your grandkids about this thing you did in spandex with the weird helmets. It's not going to be about the PRs and stuff. It's going to be about the memories you had and the opportunities and the experiences. And so every time you choose not to, you're throwing one away. Mm. And the thing is that you won't know ever, but you might be missing out on the one that could change everything, or that could give you the confidence boost you've always wanted, or be that memory that you've been looking for, right? And so like when I think about doing Madison, I've been thinking about just getting to the start line and with, a bunch of group of our athletes and just smiling and looking out over the lake and being like, man, I'm just so happy to be here. Mm-hmm. And one day I won't be able to, but today I can. So I'm here and I'm going to do it, and then we'll see what happens.
Man, yeah. Going back to Louisville, yeah, that was unbelievable. And I love that you put that Mike Terali morning sachet in there, because to me that I do get that sense a lot. I know Ironman is kind of like an amped up situation in the morning, and most people, but I see people running around like crazy, is my bag, where's my bag, or this and that, and going crazy. And there's really no reason to be that hyped. Yeah, you got to be ready, but thinking back to that morning and how we just it was just so enjoyable. We just sat there and watched like 2,000 or more people jump in ahead of us. And then we just kind of like went, all right, let's go. We just kind of were like soaking it in and warming up and getting ready and, like in our own little world kind of, but together or whatever. And we just did it. And because I think back to back to my first in Wisconsin, when you were up there spectating, you surprised me and showed up, and that morning, because I've got a video of that, and there's footage of us just kind of standing around, all the guys that we're racing with, and Pete's there slapping my shoulder, and I was just so happy to be there. I spent probably half that year watching Ironman Wisconsin mass start videos, and just like watching it going, my God, that is so incredible. I was just so blown away. And as a marginal swimmer, I was just so intrigued by that thing. And I do remember as that thing started and I was getting the shit beat out of me about 200 yards in, I just remember kind of looking up at the helix and thinking, my God, I'm in this now. Because I never did an Ironman before. And I'm like, I'm in an Ironman right now.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. What a feeling. That just gives me goosebumps to think about it, because I was it was so mystifying to me. And like to have that purity, like you said, and you said something, reside in your true belief system. And that really kind of I was just so mystified by the enormity of that event and the fact that I was in the middle of that scrum. I was like, I'm in this. And that's all I kept thinking about was that whole swim was like, I'm doing an Ironman right now. It's fucking amazing. I never would have dreamed. Even a year ago, I didn't even know what Ironman was. My buddy invited me up to Louisville. Remember? I was like, I'm not interested in going that shit. And, like a year later, I'm doing one. But yeah, I mean, how can you not like soak that in, man? It's like, because you can get so hyped, but you got 12 to 15 hours ahead of you. I mean, there's no sense in you might as well just soak in that moment, man. Because that morning of Ironman, and even my dad used to, I told this story before, but it was so funny because he just didn't know what was going on up there. And he was walking around and he started getting a little freaked out, I think, because there's 3,000, 2,700 people raced that year or whatever. It's a mass start. And here he did not know me as a swimmer at all. And he's looking out at that going, he started getting nervous and shit. But then, after I got out of the water, he was jacked up and the whole thing went great. And then for the next month around the house, because they play the music in the morning, and he would just be like, that was the first time you heard that song, Let's Get It Started. And he would just sing that around the house.
That
Let's get it
I
started.
got feeling is when they just rock out hard.
Yeah, let's get it started. And he just would be singing that around the house. Going, I like that song. That morning, that was something else, And that's the thing, right? It's like we can get stressed about our race or stressed about our bags or the air pressures and, all these things go on and on and on. And it just never matters. But it's the memory of connecting with people that you love that morning and just being with that situation. And then you get in the water and then you got to go to work. But soak it all in, man. It's just like even the days before, just walking around, just like those are the memories, man. They really are. And like you said, man, it's going to be great to look back.
Yeah, I'll
at
never
that.
forget you had gone off on the bike, and your dad. We were all kind of waiting there at the right where like the little gate opens up to like ride your bike up the helix, and he was a nervous wreck. He wasn't. She was trying not to like show off, but your mom was always like, "Where's Michael? How's he doing? Why isn't he back yet?" And your dad just kind of looked at me and goes, "So, how's he doing?" It's like, think he's doing fine, but it is like, it's this to us, it's what we do, right? So it's not, it's like, every time I see like a person who is like an artist, right? Or they play the piano or they sculpt or they, they're fascinated by this, like the show called Blown Away on Netflix. They blow glass and like this things that I just can't wrap my brain around it. I'm fascinated by it because it's just the polar opposite of how I think. And I think it's incredible that people can think that way. And you talking to them about like, man, like I'm fascinated by what you do. Like, and how I just think it's unreal. And to them, they're like, what? It's no big deal. I can just like draw. And you're like, no, you don't. You just like, draw. It just, yeah. Like I just draw. And you're like, no, you don't. You do all these, but we can't wrap our brain around it. But we forget that sometimes because we gotten so close to it that we used to be that, right? We were standing there, like you were at Louisville before you got into triathlons, watching people go and be like, man, this is unbelievable. How can these people do this thing? Like, not just anything, but like a sprint, an Olympic,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
All of them. People like you tell people what you do, or they figure they're like, man, I don't know how you do that. And you're like, you could do it. And you're like, no, I can't. And immediately what you should feel is a sense of like, one, a little bit of sadness because like they don't see that in themselves, but two, like, man, that could be me. I could think that, man, I can't do that, or man, I shouldn't do that. And then you're doing nothing because what they don't usually respond with is, yeah, I don't know how you do that, but what I do is I do this. I go to the gym or I do this. That's my thing. We forget because we're so close to it that what we're doing is already something that most people are just too terrified to do, right? Learning how to swim, getting on their bike, doing this. It's like people just find reasons to not do it. And you've already found reasons to do it. So why do we continue to layer on expectation after expectation? We get this question a lot. It's been posted in our Facebook group a lot here recently. People who come back from injury or illness, like I'm just really, really behind. You're so far advanced from the average Joe.
Mm-hmm.
You're like a superhuman. And all we feel is this feeling of being, quote unquote, behind or not prepared enough. And the only thing that we are comparing ourselves to is an expectation we pulled out of our ass that we just thought we should have, right? Go into a race with the best bill of health you can give yourself, mentally, emotionally, physically, and you'll be ready. Go into a race with an injury, might not work out very well. Go into a race mentally burnt out or emotionally distraught, might not go very well. But, give me the person who is, physically in a pretty good spot, but mentally and emotionally ready to rock in a good spot, give that person all day long. And you can be that person, right? But we love to find, and I have honestly, I've found this more and more and more the last few years, is that we as not a society, but I think people in general, it's like we are attracted to panic and anxious, ridden moments, and triathletes are the worst. They just look like, let me, what I should do today? I got free time. I'm relaxing. I'm feeling pretty good about myself. My workouts are great this morning. What I'm going to do? I'm going to go get in the Ironman Wisconsin Facebook page. Worst decision ever. Right? Because all you're going to do is what they should do is in order to enter these Ironman Facebook pages, you need to have, Xanax on tap, right? Ready to roll, because all it's going to do is cause you anxiety and second guess. Oh my God, this dude in Poland, he did like a 200-mile bike ride and a 40-mile run. I am behind. And then you see, you got Jenny Lou from, hey man, my cousin's best friend, he works for WDOT, Wisconsin Department of Transportation. He said the road conditions at mile 43 are horrendous. You're going to need 28-inch gator skins, and you pump them up to 150. That's what I'm running. If you don't want a flat, have that and carry at least 4 extras. That's the stuff you can read in there. And you know what people do? Click, 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 click. It's like watching a freaking, car wreck. People can't turn away. That's what it is. Stop looking at it. I get snarky with my own athletes. I'm like, stop reading that shit. All you're doing is causing undue panic, and you're interfering with your this. It's we can't appreciate relaxing anymore. We can't appreciate being present. We can't appreciate not having something to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I should do? Pick up my phone. Ironman Wisconsin Facebook group. Let's see, what can I worry about today? Oh, I don't have this aero helmet. Oh, I don't have this nutrition. Oh, I don't have this. Oh my God, they changed the course. Oh my God. The course changed 2 weeks beforehand. The course has changed. Have you ridden the course? No. You looked at it on paper. Okay, so why are we worried about the course? You won't have an idea. Most people will freak out about a course change and oh my God, I can't. But the athlete guide, it's not even out yet. It's not even out. We're 8 weeks away, and the athlete guide isn't out yet. Schedule events, I don't know. Participants, what's a bit more? I don't know. What? We just search and search and search, because I truly believe this, that most people's baseline chill now is a raised level of anxiety and just kind of irritability of I got to find something to worry about, or something to do this or something to do that. And just earmuffs, chill the fuck out. None of this is a big deal. Let's just relax and get the job done and show up and be happy and be fit and then have a good day. But it's in triathletes, we do it to ourselves. We look for things to second guess and triple guess and quadruple guess, and then go back to the first one and then worry about it some more. right? And we do it with our training. Or have we done enough? Have we ridden enough? Have we swam enough? Of this, and we're comparing ourselves to total strangers on Strava or people, admins in a Facebook group. And you're like, what? Live, live and work and breathe your own journey. Stop inviting strangers into it to affect it and muddy the waters.
Mm-hmm.
And people do it all the time, all the time. The one of the most so let's say my fastest Ironman Arizona back in 2011. I did it almost. I wasn't necessarily in the best place in my life, but at that period, I found like a little bit of a light, and I had done Muncie in July. Then I just stopped training. I was at that point I was still drinking a ton. So I wasn't in the great spot, but in terms of like good spots and bad spots, that was a good spot and a bad spot where I was before that. And I just kind of delved into it, and I flew. Okay, to tell you how good of a spot I was in, I flew to Tempe and pretty much raced by myself. And didn't really know anyone, and had a really, really good day. I remember sitting on this bench when it was over with and just thinking to myself, like, man, no really even nobody knows I did this. Nobody has any idea that I, exist. But I remember thinking to myself, man, I'm so happy and so proud of myself for the accomplishment I had today. And I think we get lost. Again, the more we muddy our own waters with things and people and expectations, and like, you're just asking for it. Like, get back to the basics and remember who you're doing it for and why. And then, like you said, if you're struggling with the why, maybe it's not the why you're looking for. It's the why not, right? Mm-hmm. Why not show up? Why not toe the line? Why not get my ass in the water, right? It doesn't have to be your best day. And again, I think that's where most athletes have the problem, is that they're too afraid of the time that they'll see. And what they're doing that is they're not thinking about the time they're going to miss. Mm. And if that's the predicament that you're in, and you're like, I'm just afraid of the time I'm going to see on the board. I'm afraid I'm going to see this. I'm afraid I'm going to see that. You're thinking about the time on a clock.
Yeah.
The time on a clock, right? You're not thinking about the time you're going to miss, the experience, the dinner the night before. Like you said, like, there is, even as a coach, you walk, I get chills and I get like kind of misty-eyed every morning of an Ironman or 70.3 event when you go and watch, whether I'm participating or I'm there as a coach. You just get this like energy from everyone around, and you're like, dude, what if life was like this? Right? Mm. Like, think of the things we could accomplish and do, and how much better society it'd be if we all had this like positive, grateful energy about us, and music's thumping. You got this. You feel alive, and you're skipping it. You're missing it. Right. And for what? Sometimes it's for a great reason, but oftentimes it's because we're too scared. Right. And so if you reframe, you're like, I'm so scared to miss out on a time to feel alive. Mm. Right. And it's just, it doesn't make sense most of the time.
Yeah, man. I do. I mean, going through this process, and we can wrap it up after this, but I just, there's things I noticed, and with social media, or with the diversions that we have available, there's like times all day when you're like, is this the right thing I should be doing? Should I be going in the Wisconsin Facebook group, or should I be doing something that's going to build positive energy and maybe give me more confidence for the race right now? But it's so luring to go into that. I think we, like, you're talking about, it's like we almost default to an anxiety move. And then it becomes, I think it almost justifies our fear a little bit. It's like, you see, shit's fucked up out there. This world, it's, I'm not going to do it. I mean, I don't know, what's the point or whatever. And I think the more you go down that road, the easier it becomes. So, when you get to Ironman morning, like you were just talking about, you kind of look around at the energy and you feel like these, the people here probably more often chose to tackle life rather than to go live in some kind of, illusion or something like that, and get kind of framed up in their head with this idea that, wow, I just want to escape. I want to escape instead of facing that fear. And then it always, the more fear you face, the better off you are. But it's like, it's like I put in that like poem thing. It was like, the last one is like, you got to remember to love yourself, man, and do what's right. And and so many times that the things that we're putting in training plans or whatever are the right things to do, and there's always time for it. And you don't have to go out and break records or whatever, but you just have to move, because the movement is the medicine, and it's just it's the right thing to do for ourselves. And it's so easy to do the wrong things for ourselves because it's like a smorgasbord out there.
And don't forget, and like you said, we can end on this one, is like, when life is challenging enough, you've chosen to challenge yourself further. And that is something that can't be taught. It can't be honestly explained, right? Because you're like, life is hard enough already. What am I doing again?
Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is things tend to feel easier, right? Things don't become or tend to not feel so overwhelming or so stressful, because you're like, I've been this road before, baby. Like, I've challenged myself in ways you can't even imagine. This is nothing, right? So when you feel challenged, challenge yourself further. Don't back down. Don't quit. Don't take a seat. Don't go ride the bench. Get your ass in the game, right? Because that stuff is what's gonna allow you to continue to do things for a long period of time, while everyone else is walking out the back door, hopping in the car, leaving, heading home to do jack shit, sit around, do nothing. But it's safe, and I won't feel any stress, and it's not that bad, because feeling less is feeling less, and that leads to feeling nothing, right? So continue to challenge yourself through no matter what. You know, most people get in the sport because if you're looking for the easy way out, you didn't get in triathlon. You know, I don't know what you got into. You probably got into nothing, you know, but you haven't, you know, and so remind yourself of that. And again, because the further we get away from the first time we did it, we lose sight of who we were and how we got here. Everybody does. Stay humble. Remember where you started, you know, or the phrase, you know, your own humble beginnings. You know, remember where you started and appreciate that, and honor it by continuing to do it, right? Not taking a seat or hiding behind the curtain because you're afraid to get on stage. You know, get out there, get to work.
I like it, man.
That's all we got today.
I'm going into this race with little expectations. I just want to do it.
Yeah, I got a question I'm going to ask you on air.
Okay.
Am I going to get any crowd support from you since I'm racing on Saturday?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Got it. I know I'm not going to see it at the swim start. That's got it. But I'm feeling like at least like maybe a finish line high five or something.
Well, we might want to go back on this because one of my training regimens lately has been I've been slowly eking my wake up time earlier because I want to. It's probably the most important one actually. I'm not going crazy yet, but I'm hoping that by that morning I'll be like, let's go down to the swim start, you know, just like fired up, because I do want to get up early that day, you know, because I want to be able to sleep that night. So, yeah, I might be there at the swim.
There's a little pre-juice. The music will be pumping. You know, you'll have a bunch of athletes rolling in.
I'll be down there for sure. Yeah, I'll be supporting you, man. And then
you can return the favor.
Yeah, then you can return the favor. But you'll be also, I already imagine you're going to be going to that big Badger game on Saturday afternoon, right? 2:30.
Who are they playing?
Yeah, not a bad game. Washington State.
Oh God, is it Mike Leach still there?
I don't think so, but you know,
I'm not going to that, man.
I mean, it's not like Bowling Green or something.
That's true.
But
that's true.
Although Bowling Green might be better than Washington State, actually, now that I think about it. But yeah, I don't know. I thought about going to that game. I was soaking in, man. I don't know about that. As long as I got a shade seat.
Dude, you got a big day.
Watch off my feet.
Sit in the hotel room, relax, watch on the screen.
Yeah, right. Throwing shit at the TV because they're underperforming again.
Keep your heart rate. Exactly. It's early season. You guys always underperform early season. So don't even go. Don't even go. You'll be like in zone 4 at halftime because we don't have it this year. Every year. Here we go.
Yeah.
Disconnect the cable for the 98th time.
Yeah. That's true. But hey, I do have one thing to say that now that I am joining the race. I saw, I think it was Tracy Fritz posted something about Wisconsin needs volunteers. So if I'm going to be out there racing, maybe somebody, you know, people listening, if they're nearby, you can sign up and volunteer because they need volunteers. And again, that'll be a great experience for you. If you're not racing and you're listening to this podcast, go do that, because it's going to be a good time. It'll really make you feel good and might spark something in you.
Hey, races don't exist without volunteers. That's just a fact.
Yeah. Yeah, we need to step up on that one. Maybe we've got a lot of people doing 70.3 that might want to turn it around and volunteer the next day. We probably do, actually, in our group.
Yeah, I'm sure we do. We always have a bunch of volunteers putting in the time, growing the sport, and giving back. That's what we do.
Who wants to put the medal around my neck?
Yeah, yeah. And then bend down and take off his timing chip too, because I know you ain't bent it down to get that after 140.6.
I just hope I don't drop my water bottle on the red carpet again. That was embarrassing.
My God. Just wait. The governor of Madison, Wisconsin, Mike Torale, does all the waves and the shaking of the hands and the kissing of the babies. I mean, you've never seen a guy milk the red carpet like you've seen Mike Torale. So if there's no other reason to volunteer than to see that, volunteer. He does. Nobody can sashay their way down the red carpet like Mike does. They're like, oh, Mike's about to come in. He's 3 minutes from the last checkpoint. You're going to get the finish line. You're not going to make it. I'm like, dude, I got at least 15 minutes. Minimum, because as soon as he hits the red carpet, he's going to stroll it. I think he even walks backwards some. So if he's got 3 minutes of the red carpet, I got at least 15. So just give me a minute and I'll be there.
Yeah, buddy.
Man. Can't wait. It's going to be awesome. We look forward to seeing you all next month. Again, head over to our website, c26triathlon.com. It's our one-stop shop for all things coaching, camps, and community. And then look at our coaching tab if you want some help with coaching the rest of the year or even next year. Find the coach is right for you. And as always, if you need anything specifically, you can reach out to Mike, crushingiron@gmail.com. If you need anything from me, I'm at c26coach@gmail.com.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it, man.
See you.
See ya.